Hey, welcome back. It's Alex here, and I have to tell you something before we even start today's lesson. Yesterday, I was sitting in a coffee shop, just minding my own business, drinking way too much coffee like I always do, and I overheard the most English lesson ever. And nobody in that conversation even knew they were teaching me anything. Two friends were trying to decide where to go on a trip, and one of them kept saying things like, "I'd rather this," and "honestly, I think that," and I just sat there thinking, wow, this is exactly the kind of English you need to hear. Real English, not textbook English. The English people actually use when they're deciding what they want, what they like, what they'd rather do instead of something else. And that, my friend, is exactly what we're doing today. If you've ever listened to native speakers talk and felt a tiny bit lost when they start expressing opinions and preferences because they don't just say, "I like this," or "I don't like that," they use all these little phrases and signals, then this lesson was made for you. Stick with me until the end, because I've got a full story for you today, with real conversations, real characters, and plenty of chances to pause, think, and practice. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to start noticing these preference signals everywhere. In movies, in podcasts, in real conversations with real people. So get comfortable. Maybe grab a cup of something warm, and let's get into it. Before we dive into the story, let's talk for just a minute about what we mean by signaling preferences. When someone tells you what they like, want, or would rather have, they usually don't just blurt it out plainly. They use certain words and phrases that act like little flags, waving and saying, "Hey, pay attention. This is what I actually want." Phrases like, "I'd rather," "I'd prefer," "honestly," "I think," "if it were up to me," "personally," I'd say, and "I'm more into" are some of the most common ones. And once you learn to catch these flags, understanding what people truly mean becomes so much easier, even if the rest of the sentence is a little complicated. So today, as we follow our story, I want you to listen closely for these signals. I'll pause along the way to point them out, explain them, and give you a chance to practice using them yourself. This is a listening lesson, but it's also a speaking lesson in disguise. Because once you understand how these phrases work, you'll start using them naturally too. Okay, let's meet our characters. This story follows a small group of friends. There's Maya, who is warm, a little dramatic, and always has a strong opinion about food. There's Daniel, who's calm, practical, and honestly just wants everyone to be happy, even if that means going along with whatever anyone else decides. There's Priya, who loves adventure and never says no to anything new. And finally, there's Leo, who's the newest member of the friend group, quieter than the others, still learning how to speak up about what he wants. These four friends have been planning something for weeks now, and today, they're finally getting together to make some real decisions. Let's listen in. It's a Saturday afternoon, and Maya, Daniel, Priya, and Leo are sitting around a small wooden table at Maya's apartment. Laptops open, a half-eaten bag of chips between them, trying to plan a weekend trip together. This has been the topic of conversation in their group chat for almost a month now, but nobody has actually agreed on anything yet, which, if you've ever tried to plan a trip with more than two people, you already know is completely normal and also incredibly frustrating. Maya starts things off, tapping her pen against the table. "Okay, so We really need to decide today. I feel like we've been talking about this trip forever, and we still don't have a plan. Daniel nods, leaning back in his chair. Yeah, you're right. Let's just go through the options one more time and actually pick something. Priya, scrolling through her phone, jumps in immediately. Honestly, I think we should just go to the mountains. Like, I've been dying to go hiking, and I heard there's this amazing trail with a waterfall at the end. Now, pause right there for a second, because did you catch that phrase? Honestly, I think. This is one of the most common ways English speakers introduce their real opinion, especially when they're about to say something a little strong or a little different from what others might expect. It's a signal that says, forget the small talk, here's what I actually believe. You'll hear this phrase constantly in real conversations, so let's keep listening for more. Maya doesn't look convinced. She wrinkles her nose a little and says, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of hiking, to be honest. I mean, I like nature and everything, but hours of walking uphill? That's not really my thing. There it is again, another signal. I'm not really a fan of. This phrase is a soft but clear way to say you don't like something. Notice she doesn't just say no or I hate hiking. English speakers, especially in casual conversation, often soften their opinions like this, especially when they're talking to friends and don't want to sound too harsh. It's polite, but it's still very clear about what she prefers. Daniel, always trying to keep the peace, jumps in. What about the beach then? I mean, if it were up to me, I'd probably just pick somewhere relaxing. You know, somewhere we can just sit, eat good food, not stress about anything. And here's another one, a really useful one. If it were up to me. This phrase is fantastic because it introduces a preference in a slightly indirect but very natural way. It's like saying, this is just my opinion, but here's what I would choose. It's a great phrase to use when you want to share what you want without sounding like you're forcing your opinion onto everyone else. Try saying it yourself right now, out loud, even if you're alone. Say, if it were up to me, I'd choose the beach. Feel how natural that sounds? Good. Let's keep going. Priya isn't giving up on her mountain idea that easily. She leans forward and says, okay, but hear me out. Between the mountains and the beach, I'd honestly go with the mountains every single time. There's just something about being outside, breathing that fresh air, feeling like you actually did something with your weekend. This time, listen for I'd honestly go with. This is a very natural way that English speakers compare two choices and clearly state which one they prefer. Between X and Y, I'd go with X is a phrase pattern you'll hear again and again, especially when someone is comparing options. It's direct, but still sounds friendly and conversational, not like a formal debate. Leo, who has been quiet this whole time, finally speaks up, a little hesitantly. Honestly, I could go either way. I don't really have a strong opinion, but if I had to choose, maybe the beach, just because I haven't been in a while. Here's a phrase worth pausing on. I could go either way. This means someone doesn't have a strong preference between two options. They're okay with either one. It's incredibly common in everyday English, especially when someone is being flexible or polite, not wanting to cause an argument. But notice what Leo does next. He follows it up with, if I had to choose, which shows that even when someone says they don't care, English speakers often still lean toward one option if you push them a little. This combination, I could go either way, but if I had to choose, is a beautiful example of how real English conversations work, full of small hesitations, softenings, and gentle preferences. Maya laughs and shakes her head. Okay, we clearly need a system here, because everyone keeps saying different things. Daniel chuckles too. Yeah, let's maybe list the pros and cons or something. Priya rolls her eyes playfully. Or, we could just let me win, because I'm the most passionate about this. Everyone laughs, and the tension in the room, if you could even call it tension, melts a little. This is actually a really important part of real conversations too. Humor. English speakers often use a bit of teasing or gentle joking when they're trying to reach an agreement, especially with friends. It softens the disagreement and keeps things light. Now, let's take a short break from the story and practice what we've heard so far. I want you to imagine you're being asked this question. Do you prefer the mountains or the beach? Try answering using one of the phrases we just learned. You could say, honestly, I think I'd prefer the beach. Or, if it were up to me, I'd choose the mountains. Or even, I could go either way. But if I had to choose, I'd probably pick the beach. Pause the video right now and say your answer out loud. Don't worry about being perfect. The goal here is just to get your mouth used to producing these phrases naturally. Okay, let's get back to Maya, Daniel, Priya, and Leo, because their trip planning is about to get a little more complicated. After a bit more back and forth, the four friends decide to try something different. Daniel suggests they write down their top 3 choices individually, and then compare notes. This actually works pretty well, because sometimes when people say their opinions out loud in a group, they feel pressure to agree with whoever spoke first. Writing things down privately gives everyone a chance to think about what they truly want, without any outside influence. After a few minutes of scribbling on napkins and typing notes into their phones, they go around the table sharing their lists. Maya goes first. Okay, so my top pick is actually a lake house, somewhere quiet, with a porch, maybe a hammock. Second choice would be the beach. And third, I guess, a city trip, like exploring somewhere new with good restaurants. Daniel nods along as she talks, and then shares his own list. Mine's pretty similar, actually. Beach is my first choice, then a lake house, and then, I don't know, camping, maybe. Just something simple. Priya, of course, still has mountains at the top of her list, but adds, my second choice would actually be the lake house too, now that I think about it. There's something appealing about being near water, just not hiking every single day. And finally, Leo shares his list, a little shyly. Honestly, I don't really mind where we go, as long as we're all together. But if I'm picking favorites, I'd say the lake house sounds really nice, and then maybe the beach. Do you notice something interesting happening here? 3 out of 4 friends now have the lake house somewhere in their top choices. This is actually a really common thing that happens in real conversations and real decision-making. Sometimes the winning option isn't anyone's first choice from the very beginning, but it becomes clear once everyone shares their honest preferences. And this is exactly why listening carefully to how people express what they want is so important, because you start noticing patterns, common ground, things that connect everyone's opinions even when it doesn't seem obvious at first. Maya looks around the table, surprised. Wait, We all kind of like the lake house idea. Priya laughs. I mean, I still think mountains would have been more fun, but yeah, I'm actually pretty into the lake house idea too. There's that phrase again, I'm pretty into, which is another really casual, friendly way of expressing that you like something. It's less formal than saying, I prefer, and sounds very natural in everyday conversations between friends. Daniel smiles, clearly relieved. Okay, so it sounds like we're leaning toward the lake house then? And here's yet another useful phrase, leaning toward. When someone says they're leaning toward an option, it means they're starting to prefer it, even if they haven't made a final decision yet. It's a great phrase because it shows a process, a movement from uncertainty toward a decision, which is exactly how real choices usually happen. Nobody just instantly knows what they want all the time. Often, people lean toward something gradually, especially after hearing other people's opinions. Leo, feeling a bit more confident now, adds, Yeah, I think the lake house works for me. I'm happy with that. Maya claps her hands together. Okay, lake house it is then. I'll start looking for places we can rent. And just like that, after all that discussion, all those preferences shared, softened, compared, and combined, the four friends finally reach a decision together. Now, let's pause again for a moment, because I want to highlight something important about how this conversation went. Notice that nobody got their exact first choice. Maya wanted the lake house as her top pick, sure, but Daniel wanted the beach first, and Priya wanted the mountains. Yet somehow, they all ended up happy with the lake house. This happens constantly in real English conversations. Compromise. And compromise almost always comes with its own set of preference-signaling phrases. Things like, I'm happy with that. That works for me. I'm okay with whatever. Or, sounds good to me. These phrases show agreement, but they're still connected to personal preference, because saying, that works for me, is different from saying, that's exactly what I wanted. It shows flexibility, a very important social skill in English-speaking cultures, especially in group settings. Let's continue the story a little further, because trip planning doesn't stop at just picking a destination. A few days later, the friends are back together, this time trying to decide what to eat before they leave on their trip. They've decided to have a final dinner together the night before departure. And naturally, deciding on a restaurant brings out even more preference language. They're sitting in Daniel's car, driving around, trying to figure out where to eat. Priya is scrolling through a restaurant app on her phone. Okay, there's this new Thai place that just opened, or we could go to that Italian restaurant we went to last time, the one with the really good pasta. Maya groans playfully. Ugh, I could eat Italian food every single day of my life, so I'm definitely biased. But I'd say, let's do Italian. I could eat this every day is such a fun, natural way to express strong liking for something. It's exaggerated, sure. Nobody actually eats the same food every day, but that's exactly how casual English works sometimes, with a bit of exaggeration to show enthusiasm. Daniel, driving, glances at the app Priya is holding up. Honestly, I'm kind of in the mood for something spicy, so Thai food sounds really good to me right now. I'm kind of in the mood for is another wonderful phrase, especially useful for food preferences. It expresses a temporary desire, something you want right now, in this specific moment, rather than a general, permanent preference. This is different from saying, I love Thai food, because being in the mood for something suggests it's about how you're feeling today, not necessarily your favorite food overall. Leo, sitting in the back seat, finally speaks up. I really don't mind either place, but if you're asking me honestly, I'd probably lean toward Thai food too, just because I haven't had it in a while. There's that lean toward phrase again, showing up naturally in a completely different context now, proving just how flexible and common this expression really is in everyday English. Priya turns around in her seat to look at Maya. Okay, so it's kind of 2 against 1 right now. Thai food versus Italian. What do you think, Maya? Are you okay with Thai instead? Maya sighs dramatically, but she's smiling. Fine, fine. I guess I can compromise. Thai food it is. But next time, we're doing Italian. No negotiations. Everyone laughs at that, because Maya's stubbornness about Italian food has become sort of an inside joke within the group at this point. Let's pause here again for some practice. Think about your own food preferences right now. Are you in the mood for something specific? Try completing this sentence out loud. Honestly, I'm kind of in the mood for, and finish it with whatever food you're craving right now. Maybe it's pizza. Maybe it's something spicy. Maybe it's just a good cup of coffee. Say it out loud. Practice that natural rhythm, that casual tone. This is exactly how native speakers talk about what they want to eat. So getting comfortable with this phrase will make your everyday conversation sound so much more natural. Now, back to our story. The 4 friends arrive at the Thai restaurant, and once they're seated, the preference conversations continue, this time about the actual food on the menu. Waitresses and waiters in English-speaking countries often ask customers what they'd like, and understanding how to respond naturally is a really valuable skill. The waiter comes over, smiling, notepad in hand. Hi there, are you guys ready to order? Or do you need a few more minutes? Daniel looks around the table. I think we're ready. Actually, do you have any recommendations? Like, what's your personal favorite on the menu? This is such a common thing English speakers do, asking for recommendations, especially when they're not sure what they want. The waiter smiles and says, honestly, I'd say the green curry is one of our most popular dishes. But if you like things spicier, I'd go with the pad kra pao. Notice how the waiter uses the exact same phrases we've been learning this whole episode, honestly, I'd say, and I'd go with. These aren't just phrases that friends use with each other. They're used everywhere in English, in restaurants, in shops, in everyday interactions with strangers, too. Maya decides quickly. Okay, I think I'll go with the green curry then, since you recommended it. Priya, still looking at the menu, says, I'm torn between the pad thai and the spring rolls, but I guess I'll get both. Why not? I'm torn between is such a useful phrase for expressing indecision between 2 things you like almost equally. It literally paints a picture of someone being pulled in 2 directions, unable to choose, which is such a relatable feeling, especially when looking at a delicious menu. Daniel orders the pad kra pao, following the waiter's recommendation, and Leo, after a moment of thought, says, I think I'll just get the same as Daniel. That sounds good to me? That sounds good to me is a nice, simple way to agree with someone else's choice while still expressing your own preference, because it shows you're not just going along with it blindly. You actually think it sounds appealing too. As the food arrives and the friends start eating, sharing bites, complimenting the flavors, the conversation naturally shifts to talking about their upcoming trip again. This is actually really realistic, because conversations rarely stay on one single topic for very long. They flow naturally from one subject to another, and preference language pops up again and again throughout, whenever someone shares an opinion or expresses what they want. Priya, taking a bite of spring roll, says, "You know, now that I think about it, I'm actually really excited about the lake house. Like, I know I originally wanted mountains, but I think this is going to be really nice." Maya smiles. "Yeah, I'm glad we all agreed on something everyone's happy with." Daniel raises his glass playfully. To compromise, and to Thai food being an excellent decision. Everyone laughs and clinks their glasses together, and Leo, feeling more comfortable now after spending the evening with his friends, adds, "Honestly, guys, I'm just really happy to be included in this trip. I know I'm still kind of new to the group, but you guys have made me feel really welcome." There's a small pause, a warm one. The kind of pause that happens in real conversations when someone says something genuine, and everyone just sort of takes it in for a second before responding. Maya reaches over and pats Leo's shoulder. "Of course you're included. You're one of us now." And that's the kind of authentic human moment that makes real conversation so rich, so full of emotion, layered underneath all these small preference statements and casual decisions about food and travel plans. Let's take another short pause here for practice, because I want you to think about how you would respond in this restaurant scenario. Imagine a waiter asks you, "What would you like to order?" Try responding with a full sentence using one of our preference phrases. You could say, "I think I'll go with the curry," or "I'm torn between the noodles and the soup, but I'll get the noodles," or even, "Honestly, I'd say I'm in the mood for something spicy today." Practice saying a few different responses out loud, playing with the vocabulary we've learned, making it your own. Now, let's jump forward a little bit in our story, to the actual day of the trip. The four friends pack up Daniel's car with bags, snacks, and way too many pillows, according to Maya, and set off toward the lake house they finally agreed on. During the drive, which takes a few hours, the conversation naturally drifts through music choices, which is yet another great context for practicing preference language. "Okay, whose turn is it to pick the music?" Priya asks, holding up her phone connected to the car's speaker system. Daniel, driving, says, "Honestly, I don't really care what we listen to, as long as it's not that one song you played on repeat last time." Everyone laughs, because apparently Priya has a habit of playing the same song over and over until everyone else in the car is ready to lose their minds. Priya defends herself. "Hey, it's a good song. But fine, I'll pick something different." "I don't really care" is another really common phrase in English, showing indifference, a lack of strong preference. It's important to note this isn't rude. It's just casual and honest, especially between close friends who feel comfortable being direct with each other. Maya jumps in with her own suggestion. "Ooh, can we listen to that new album that just came out? I've been dying to hear it properly, like with good speakers, not just on my phone." "I've been dying to" is such a strong, emotional way of expressing desire, showing real enthusiasm and excitement. It's much stronger than simply saying, "I want to." It adds a layer of impatience, of really, really wanting something for a while now. Leo, sitting quietly in the back seat again, finally offers his opinion. I'm actually more into older music, like stuff from the 70s and 80s, but I'm happy to listen to whatever you guys want. I'm more into is a phrase we touched on earlier too, and it's showing up again here in a completely different context, proving once more how versatile and useful this phrase really is across different topics, whether it's food, activities, or in this case, music. Priya, being the generous friend that she is, says, "You know what? Let's actually do a mix. We'll listen to Maya's new album first, and then Leo, you can pick some classics after that." Everyone agrees happily, and this small moment shows something beautiful about how preferences work in group settings. It's not always about choosing just one option and eliminating everyone else's wants. Sometimes, especially with a bit of creativity and flexibility, everyone's preferences can be honored, just at different times. As the music plays and the car rolls down the highway, the conversation shifts again, this time to what activities they want to do once they arrive at the lake house. This gives us even more opportunities to hear natural preference language in action. So, once we get there, what does everyone actually want to do? Daniel asks, glancing at the group through the rearview mirror. Maya answers immediately. "I really want to just relax on that porch we saw in the pictures, with a good book, maybe a glass of wine, just do absolutely nothing for like a full day." Priya, predictably, has different ideas. "Okay, but can we at least do some kayaking? I saw there's a little dock, and I think you can rent kayaks nearby. I'd really love to try that." "I'd really love to" is a wonderfully expressive phrase, showing strong desire in a warm, enthusiastic way. It's slightly softer than "I've been dying to," but still very clear about what someone genuinely wants to do. Leo adds his own thoughts. "I wouldn't mind trying kayaking too, actually. I've never done it before, so that could be fun." "I wouldn't mind" is such an interesting phrase because it sounds almost neutral on the surface, but it actually signals a mild, genuine interest. It's different from saying, "I don't care," because "I wouldn't mind" suggests some level of positive curiosity, just expressed in a more understated, humble way. Daniel, ever the peacemaker, suggests, "How about this? We do a mix of everything. Kayaking one day, relaxing on the porch another day, maybe even a little hike around the lake if everyone's up for it." Maya groans jokingly. "A hike? Really, Daniel? After I specifically avoided the mountains trip because of hiking?" Everyone laughs, and Daniel raises his hands defensively. "Okay, okay. No hiking, just kayaking and relaxing then." This small joke actually brings us back to something important, remembering someone's earlier preferences and respecting them, even later in a conversation. It shows attentiveness, care, the kind of thing that makes friendships and relationships stronger, both in real life and in the English language itself, because paying attention to preference signals isn't just about understanding language, it's about understanding people. Let's pause once more for some listening comprehension practice. I want you to think back through everything we've heard so far, and try to remember, what was Priya's very first choice for their trip destination? If you said mountains, you're absolutely right. And what changed her mind toward the lake house? If you remember that multiple friends shared the lake house as either their first or second choice, and that created common ground, you're following along perfectly. This kind of active listening, remembering details, Understanding how opinions shift and combine is exactly the skill you're building right now, and it's going to make a real difference in how you understand native English conversations, whether they're in movies, podcasts, or real life. The friends finally arrive at the lake house late in the afternoon, the sun beginning to lower in the sky, casting a warm golden light across the water. Everyone piles out of the car, stretching after the long drive, and immediately starts exploring their home for the next few days. Maya practically runs toward the porch, throwing herself onto one of the wooden chairs with a satisfied sigh. Okay, this is exactly what I wanted. I'm so happy right now. Priya, meanwhile, is already walking down toward the dock, checking out the kayaks tied up nearby. Leo follows her, curious, while Daniel starts unloading the car, calling out for help every few seconds, though nobody seems to be listening very closely. That evening, after settling in, the friends gather in the living room, sitting around a small fireplace, since the nights near the lake tend to get a bit chilly, even though it's technically summer. They're playing a card game, something Daniel brought along, and between rounds, the conversation naturally turns toward planning the rest of their stay, which, as you can probably guess by now, brings up even more preference language. Okay, so tomorrow, should we do the kayaking first thing in the morning or later in the afternoon? Priya asks, shuffling the deck of cards. Maya immediately responds, Honestly, I'd rather do it in the morning, before it gets too hot outside. I'd rather is probably one of the most classic, most commonly used preference phrases in the entire English language. And you've probably heard it many times already if you've been studying English for a while. It's simple, direct, and incredibly useful, showing a clear preference between two options, in this case, morning versus afternoon. Daniel agrees. Yeah, morning makes sense to me too, plus we can relax by the water in the afternoon once it's warmer. Leo nods along. That works for me. And there's that phrase again, that works for me, showing agreement while still acknowledging personal preference, a phrase that's going to serve you incredibly well in almost any group decision-making conversation in English. As the game continues, laughter fills the room, the kind of easy, comfortable laughter that happens between close friends who genuinely enjoy each other's company. At one point, Maya loses dramatically, throwing her cards down with mock frustration. Okay, I demand a rematch. This game clearly hates me. Everyone laughs, and Priya teases her. Or maybe you're just bad at this game, Maya. Excuse me, I am an excellent card player. I'm just having an off night, Maya replies, feigning offense, though she's clearly enjoying the playful banter. This moment, though small, shows us something really valuable about how English speakers communicate emotion alongside opinions and preferences. Notice how Maya doesn't just say she's upset about losing, she exaggerates it playfully, using humor to express her feelings in a lighthearted way. This kind of playful exaggeration is incredibly common in casual English conversations between friends, and understanding it will help you catch onto the emotional tone of conversations, not just the literal words being spoken. As the night winds down, the friends start talking about heading to bed, but before they do, Leo says something that catches everyone's attention. Hey, I just want to say, thank you guys for this. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd fit in with everyone, since I'm still pretty new to the group, but this trip has been amazing so far, and I'm really glad I came. There's a warmth in his voice, genuine, and a little vulnerable, and the room goes quiet for a moment. The good kind of quiet. Maya breaks the silence first, smiling warmly. Leo, seriously, we're really glad you're here too. You fit in perfectly. Priya adds, yeah, honestly, I think you're going to be a permanent part of our friend group after this trip. No negotiations. Everyone laughs softly, and Daniel raises an imaginary glass. To new friendships, and to lake houses that somehow work out perfectly, even when nobody originally wanted them as their first choice. Everyone chuckles again, remembering how the lake house wasn't technically anyone's top pick from the very beginning, yet somehow became exactly the right choice for all of them. Let's pause here for a moment, because I think this part of the story teaches us something important, not just about English language, but about communication in general. Preferences, opinions, choices, they're not always about getting exactly what you want from the very start. Sometimes the best outcomes come from listening to other people, being flexible, compromising, and trusting that things will work out, even if they don't match your original plan. And this is exactly what makes learning to understand preference language in English so valuable, because it's not just vocabulary, it's a window into how people connect, negotiate, and build relationships with each other. The next morning, true to their plan, the friends wake up early and head down to the dock for kayaking. The morning air is crisp, the lake perfectly calm, reflecting the pale morning sky like a mirror. Priya, of course, is the most excited, practically jumping into her kayak before anyone else is even ready. Come on, guys, let's go. The water looks perfect right now. Maya, still a little sleepy, mutters, give me a second. I need coffee before I can even think about paddling anywhere. Everyone laughs, and Daniel hands her a thermos. Here, I made extra. Figured you'd need it. Maya takes it gratefully. Okay, you're officially my favorite person right now. You're officially my favorite person right now is such a fun, exaggerated way of expressing gratitude and affection. Again, showing how English speakers often use playful exaggeration to express genuine feelings in a light-hearted, casual way. As they paddle out onto the lake, the conversation becomes quieter, more peaceful, punctuated by occasional comments about the scenery. This is honestly so beautiful, Leo says softly, looking around at the surrounding hills reflected perfectly in the still water. I'm really glad we picked this spot. Priya, paddling nearby, agrees. Yeah, I have to admit, even though I originally wanted the mountains, I don't think I would have traded this moment for anything. This small confession from Priya is really significant, because it shows a shift in her original preference, an evolution based on actual experience. This happens constantly in real life too. Sometimes our preferences change once we actually experience something, even if it wasn't our first choice going in. After an hour or so of kayaking, exploring small coves along the lake's edge, the friends paddle back to the dock, tired but happy, sun-kissed and relaxed. They spend the rest of the morning drying off on the porch, drinking coffee, and planning their afternoon, which, as promised, involves simply relaxing by the water, reading, chatting, and enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. During this relaxed afternoon, lounging in comfortable chairs near the water's edge, Maya finally gets her wish from the very beginning of their trip planning: quiet relaxation with a good book. She's curled up with a novel, occasionally reading passages out loud to whoever is nearby. At one point, she looks up and says, "You know, I have to admit, I'm really happy we compromised on this trip. I feel like everyone got at least a little bit of what they wanted." Daniel nods in agreement. "Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of traveling with friends, isn't it? Finding that balance where everyone feels included." This moment beautifully wraps up the emotional core of our story today. The idea that expressing preferences honestly, listening to others, and finding compromise leads to genuinely happy outcomes, even when things don't go exactly as originally planned. And throughout this entire journey, from planning the trip, to choosing a restaurant, to picking music in the car, to deciding on activities at the lake house, we've heard dozens of natural, authentic ways that English speakers signal what they want, what they prefer, and how they feel about different choices. Let's take a moment now to review everything we've learned today, because I want to make sure these phrases really stick with you. We heard honestly, I think, which introduces a genuine opinion. We heard I'm not really a fan of, a soft way to express dislike. We heard if it were up to me, a gentle way to share what you'd choose. We heard between the two, I'd go with, useful for comparing options directly. We heard I could go either way, showing flexibility and lack of strong preference. We heard I'm leaning toward, describing a preference that's developing gradually. We heard that works for me and sounds good to me, both wonderful phrases for expressing agreement while still acknowledging your own preference. We heard I'm kind of in the mood for, perfect for temporary desires, especially with food. We heard I'm torn between, expressing indecision between two appealing options. We heard I've been dying to, a strong, enthusiastic way to express desire. We heard I'd really love to, a warm, clear expression of what someone wants to do. We heard I wouldn't mind, a humble, understated way to show interest. And finally, we heard I'd rather, probably the most classic and commonly used preference phrase in the entire English language. Now here's your challenge, and I really want you to actually do this, not just listen and move on. I want you to think about a real decision you need to make soon. Maybe what to eat for dinner tonight. Maybe what to watch on television. Maybe even something bigger, like plans for an upcoming weekend. Whatever it is, I want you to practice expressing your preference out loud, using at least 3 of the phrases we learned today. Don't just think it in your head. Actually say it out loud. Let your mouth get used to producing these sounds and rhythms naturally. This is honestly the fastest way to improve your speaking and listening skills together. Because once you start producing language yourself, you start recognizing it so much faster when you hear other people using it. I also want to encourage you to start listening for these phrases in your everyday life, whether that's watching English movies, listening to podcasts, or even scrolling through English content online. Once you start noticing these patterns, expressing preferences, signaling opinions, comparing choices, you'll realize just how often they show up in real conversations. And every single time you catch one, celebrate that little win, because that's real progress happening in your English learning journey. Before we wrap up completely, let's check back in one final time with Maya, Daniel, Priya, and Leo, because their trip is coming to an end. And there's one more small conversation worth sharing with you. On their final evening at the lake house, the 4 friends sit together on the porch. watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, reflecting beautifully across the still water below. Priya breaks the comfortable silence first. Okay, I have to admit something. I know I really wanted mountains at the beginning, but honestly, if you asked me right now, I don't think I'd change a single thing about this trip. Maya smiles warmly. See, I told you the lake house would be perfect. Daniel chuckles. To be fair, none of us actually knew it would be perfect. We just kind of got lucky that everyone's second choices matched up so well. Leo, watching the sunset quietly, adds, I think that's kind of beautiful, though, that we all ended up loving something that wasn't anyone's original first choice. It kind of shows how much better things can turn out when everyone's willing to compromise a little. There's a warm, comfortable silence after Leo's comment, the kind that settles naturally between close friends after sharing something genuine. And as the sun finally dips below the horizon, casting the sky into soft twilight colors, the four friends simply sit together, content, grateful, already looking forward to whatever adventure comes next, whenever that might be. And that, my friend, is where we'll leave Maya, Daniel, Priya, and Leo today, sitting together on that porch, having learned not just about compromise and friendship, but having given us, the listeners, dozens of authentic examples of how English speakers naturally express their preferences, opinions, and choices in everyday conversation. Before you go, I want to give you one more little exercise, something simple but really effective. Think back through the entire story we just went through today, and try to recall, in your own words, out loud, at least 3 specific moments where a character expressed a preference. Maybe it was Maya talking about hiking. Maybe it was Priya choosing between pad thai and spring rolls. Maybe it was Leo saying he could go either way about food. Practice retelling these small moments in your own words, using the vocabulary we've learned. This kind of retelling exercise is incredibly powerful for language learning because it forces your brain to actively use new vocabulary, rather than just passively recognizing it. Now, if you enjoyed following along with Maya, Daniel, Priya, and Leo today, and if you feel like your understanding of preference language in English has genuinely improved, even just a little bit, I want to ask you for a small favor. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we release new listening practice episodes just like this one regularly. Each one built around real, natural conversations designed specifically to help you understand English the way it's actually spoken, not just the way it's written in textbooks. And honestly, if this lesson helped you today, even in a small way, drop a comment down below and let me know which phrase you found most useful. Or even better, tell me about a preference of your own using one of the phrases we practiced today. I read every single comment, and I absolutely love hearing from you, seeing your progress, celebrating those small wins together with you. Also, if you know someone else who's learning English, maybe a friend, a classmate, a family member, consider sharing this video with them. Learning a language is so much easier and more enjoyable when you're not doing it completely alone. And who knows, maybe they'll catch on to something in today's lesson that really clicks for them too. Before we truly say goodbye for today, let's do one final quick recap together, just to make sure everything really sinks in. Remember, when someone wants to express a genuine, honest opinion, they might say, honestly, I think, or, to be honest. When someone wants to softly express dislike, They might say, I'm not really a fan of, or I'm not too keen on. When comparing two choices directly, phrases like I'd rather, I'd prefer, and between the two, I'd go with become incredibly useful. When someone hasn't fully decided yet, but is starting to prefer one option, they might say, I'm leaning toward. When someone genuinely doesn't mind either option, they might say, I could go either way, or I wouldn't mind. And when expressing strong enthusiasm or desire, phrases like, I've been dying to, and I'd really love to, really shine. Keep practicing these phrases. Keep listening for them in real conversations. And most importantly, keep using them yourself, even if it feels a little awkward at first. That awkwardness is completely normal. It's part of the learning process. And honestly, every single fluent English speaker went through that same stage at some point too. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, following along with Maya, Daniel, Priya, and Leo's little lake house adventure. I really hope this lesson helps you feel more confident, not just in recognizing preference language when you hear it, but in using it yourself, naturally, comfortably, like a real conversation between real friends. Until next time, keep listening, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode, right here on English in Fluency. Take care, and happy learning.